What do people complain about that literally never happens? Story 1. A cashier giving someone a weird look because of an item they bought or commenting on items they're buying together. Never worked as a cashier, but I'm pretty sure they don't care what you buy. And hi, how are you? Find everything you were looking for? Is code for hurry up and pay for your stuff, then get out. I've always believed this until a cashier had a 10-minute conversation with me about a certain item I was buying. I'd originally gone to self-checkout because I didn't want human interaction, but she insisted I come to her line and asked me all sorts of personal questions. I don't know, maybe she was bored. It was 10 at night. I didn't want to be rude, so I gave some vague answers to her questions. But yeah, I don't expect it to happen again, but apparently it does. Cashier jobs are soul-crushing. I'll talk to you about your Oreos just to fight the urge to not leave halfway through ringing your items up. Edit. 1K likes. Wow. Thank you all so much. I was having a really rough day before this, but this has helped me stay positive, especially when you're the only customer I've had in 2 hours and everything is clean, stocked, and fronted. I swear I'll really talk about anything just to have some form of mental stimulation. When I worked as a cashier, I had multiple people tell me to cheer up or go and complain about me not being more chippy to my manager. And my manager would come over and chew me out for not being all front out for 8 hours straight of the most monotonous horse-stuffed job I've ever had. Honestly, if you feel the need to tell your cashier to cheer up, you should go do yourself. Just go away. I'm sorry I didn't ask you how your day was so you could give me a fake smile and say good and then we could never talk again. Edit. This kind of blew up, but I should say I was never openly rude to a customer. My demeanor just naturally isn't a happy-go-lucky one, and it's a lot of work to physically put on that air for 8 hours. Once it got towards the end of my shift, you could probably tell it was wearing on me, and that's when these people would start to come out. I know what they're referring to. You get all these stories about buying these weird combinations of items and getting these weird looks from the cashier. But I also agree that sometimes cashiers just don't care. They're just trying to get through their shift. Some people are better at putting on a fake smile than others. I say as long as you're really quick on ringing up my items correctly and letting me get on my way, I'm fine. I understand how soul-crushing it can be standing around 8 hours a day like that. Story 2. Office workers exaggerating how many hours they work. Working a 55-hour week once or twice a year doesn't mean you do that every single week. I sit next to all of you every day and watch you put in 40-hour weeks just like me, but we still sit there interviewing job candidates and tell them about how we work hard here, usually 50 to 60 hours. Why are we lying to ourselves about this? It's not a thing to brag about. When I hear people are working that hard, I just feel bad for them. They're either getting paid too little, have an awful home life, or understaffed, or are bad at their job. All of those are things that deserve pity, not praise. Edit. I get it. There are exceptions. I just answered the original person's question with the first thing that sprung to mind. My experience is entirely anecdotal and limited to one industry and like 5 companies. Academics do this a lot too. Tenured and tenure-track professors estimate that they put in like 60-hour weeks regularly. But because they set their own research and writing schedules, it just feels like a lot more than an 8 to 5 job because you did 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon or worked in the evening instead of the morning one day, etc. I don't think a lot of people realize that a 60-hour work week over 5 days is working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day, over and over again. A lot of people just like to exaggerate, and sometimes things just feel like they're longer than they are. I'm sure with a little self-reflection, we'll realize things aren't as long or as bad as they are made out to be. I think job interviewers put forth that 55 to 60-hour week thing just so they can make sure they get candidates who really want to be invested in the job. But really, 60-hour weeks every week are just not feasible. No balance. Story 3. I used to work at a computer tech support firm. Held the job full-time for 3 years, back-to-back calls. My confession. Our customers weren't nearly as technically illiterate or rude as me and my colleagues made them out to be. Actually, 99% of our customers were kind and just wanted help. I guess exaggerated stories of the call center just made for good smoke break conversation. It's like a rite of passage in the phone support world. We sometimes received a rude customer, but chances were that they had just been worn down down from an earlier call with an inexperienced employee. Rarely did we get the entitled jerk, and when we did, he or she was always pretty easily taken care of. I guess you remember the particularly bad ones. That's pretty normal. Availability heuristic. I don't think mine came with an availability heuristic. Shall I install another toolbar and see if that fixes it? Then there's the time I had to send a technician 3 hours out of his way in a snowstorm in Canada, and when he arrived, the problem was that the machine was unplugged. I'm not making that up. Yeah, I know that these get exaggerated, because it's really very simple. The regular customers just don't make for good stories. It's the really impossible and angry people that make for the best stories. When you put a bunch of those stories together and tell them one at a time, of course it's going to look like this is a bad job and all the customers are illiterate and don't know what they're doing. Story 4. Gym bullies, or people being really judgmental in the gym. I have worked out consistently 4 to 5 times a week in a gym for over 10 years now, and have literally never seen or encountered this. It's understandable if you're out of shape in one way or another and are self-conscious, but I think most people will agree that you're your own worst critic and it's really all in your head. To be honest, 99% of the time, people in there don't care about you, especially the huge guys, because they're too busy focusing on their own routine or checking themselves out in the mirror to look for gains or whatever. It's like people think the smallest guys in the gym are bad guys from a B-movie in the 80s who are waiting to call everyone smaller than them a dweeb. If you take the time to ask the really in-shape people for advice, tips on form and things like that, you'll find they perk up and are very helpful and willing to even set out time from their routine to give you a mini personal training session. Just make sure you ask at the right time, not mid-set or when they're panting from exhaustion. Some of the friendliest people I've met in life were people you think were jerkwads, just because they're in the zone and have an intense, focused look on their face, or are ripped. If someone is staring at you in the gym, it's probably either because you look good, are interested in an exercise you're doing, trying to make friends with people who share a common hobby, or maybe you're doing an exercise with poor form and they want to help but don't know how to approach without someone getting defensive. Planet Fitness is the biggest gym bully of them all. Story 5. Speaking of public restrooms, I, a man, was at a place where the men's room had a trough for a urinal. The place was crowded. A man, who was only allowed in the men's room, comes in with his little girl, 5-ish. I looked at her, then at all the penises she could clearly see. The man would have caught hell if he went into the women's room, so I think he did the right thing. But that poor little girl and all those penises. Edit. To clarify the trough and experience. The venue is a drive-in movie place built in the 60s. The trough is like a big clawfoot tub in the middle of the bathroom, stalls at the end. You stand and pee in the tub, with your penis very exposed to whoever walks by, or is next to you, or across from you. Basically, anyone in the bathroom. I agree. Men peeing is not and should not be a traumatizing thing to see. Wait, what the hell? Ninja edit. Never mind, I'm a moron. I misread not as hot. Story 6. My mom still insists that killer bees are a major concern. Edit. Some of these responses showed me killer bees are still a big concern in certain areas around the world. My mother lives in Central Florida, so hopefully she has no need to truly worry. Protect your neck. Okay, so I watched a documentary on killer bees years ago when I was about 7, and it messed me up big time. Had night terrors about being chased by killer bees that resulted in my sleepwalking. Well, sleep running through the house and running into furniture. Had these night terrors off and on for a few years until the internet became widespread and I could do my own independent research and figure out that the Discovery Channel documentary I watched when I was 7 was less than credible. Goodness, this was my experience too. I was allowed to watch way too much of that kind of TV, like sightings. Anyone remember freaking sightings? I'd always close my eyes when the alien face appeared. I was terrified of alien abductions, cow mutilations, the world endings, supervolcanoes, everything under the sun. I don't really understand why my dad thought it was okay for me to watch this stuff and never tell me. Well, champ, most likely this is hogwash, since I took all of this as truth. Adults never lie. Oh, what a naive kid I was. I had nightmares constantly. I was always afraid I was going to die. Always afraid I was going to get kidnapped by strangers and pulled into a windowless white van, too. And it didn't really stop until I was a teenager. Now, I'm an atheist, and I don't believe in anything. Take that, scary old TV shows. Texas agriculture agriculturist here. African killer bees are a major concern in the South. Their hives are in the ground and they look almost identical to your average honeybee. In some cases, lawnmowers can get in them or vehicles. Next thing you know, you're in the hospital seizing in anaphylactic shock. Seen it firsthand many times. A lot of people like to act like the age of disinformation was ushered in thanks to the internet. There was a lot of disinformation being spread through TV shows as well, long before you put your first AOL disk in your computer. If you still think just the internet is only responsible for disinformation, there's this guy named George Orwell who wants to speak with you. Story 7. Living in Colorado, where people, news agencies, and clueless law enforcement constantly fearmonger over magic lettuce-laced candies being given out to trick-or-treaters the entire month of October. No one has ever done that. Ever. Not only are edibles kind of pricey and come in limited small servings per container, 10 milligram servings, and there's normally 4 or 5 per container, but no one in the history of edibles has bought 500 of them, spent $1,000+ and thought, let's go mess with some freaking kids. Edit. If you know anyone handing out substances or substance-laden candies this Halloween or ever, please let me know and get me an address. Thanks. Edit 2. My first goal. Thank you, stranger. I have a friend that always goes bananas about these things. This year, I actually stopped her from talking about it and explained that no one is giving away free substances. Substances are expensive. Why would they do that? Especially randomly, where there's no guarantee of a return customer. She was like, oh. At least the person you were talking to accepted that. I usually get a response of, there's some sick people in this world. They'd do it for fun. Okay, sure, whatever. For Christmas, the family used to get together at Grandma's house. She was a very nervous and paranoid woman. My cousin and I got some cash one year and we wanted to go to the mall to find a toy to buy. She warned us that she heard that some sick man with scissors had been lurking in a mall bathroom, cutting some random kid's penis off. We were just kids. I was terrified of public bathrooms for years after that. What the hell, Grandma? Story 8. Gangs unaliving people who flash their headlights as part of a gang initiation. A quick high beam flash in my area means two things: cops taking radar or deer in the road. Either way, slow down. Edit. I missed a couple. Same thing where I'm from. It also means turn your brights off, you jerk. But then they flash their brights and you realize that HID lights are super freaking bright for normal headlights. MSG allergies equals people with a stomachache because they overate at the Chinese buffet. It's hard not to do that. Yep, I made a pot of chili to sell on chili dogs for a charity many years ago. And because MSG can make a good chili into a great chili, I added a good sprinkle. A well-meaning idiot said, but what about people with MSG allergies? To which I responded, given that MSG is naturally occurring in tomatoes, anybody allergic to MSG shouldn't be eating chili anyway. Story 9. People trying to always sell me substances as a kid. Edit. Guys, what I meant was how everyone says watch out for the guy that goes, hey kid, want some substances? That is a rare occurrence which very few people witness, don't you think? Of course, people offer you stuff in high school, college, work. I mean, what are friends for? What I was told would happen. 5th grader. You should do H substance. Everyone's doing it. You're not cool if you don't do H substance. What actually happened? My college friend when I was a senior in high school. Hey, you want a drink? It's cool if you don't. You don't have to drink. Me. Freaking finally. I would love a drink. Most of the time when someone says, I don't drink, the rest of us are just like, good on you, man. That's probably the right choice. Please drive me home later while I regret everything I've ever done. I quit smoking about 1.5 years ago. Everyone tells me they're proud of me and to keep it up while they smoke in front of me. I fully appreciate that not smoking, drinking, or doing any substances would absolutely be better for my body. I'm glad for people who don't deal with stuff like that, to be honest. I was never pressured to drink in any way growing up. Even when I was of drinking age, if I said I wasn't drinking, no one cared. I don't think I made a big deal out of it either. I drank a little when I was younger, but when I got a little older, I just stopped. Mostly because other people stopped paying for the drinks. Yeah, I'm cheap. I'm also sober. Story 10. People getting attacked by bears in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Edit. Fact. Bears eat beats. Hit it too. Oh man, my top comment is in reference to something Dwight said. This is one of the proudest moments of my life. Also gold. Thank you, stranger. Bears, not so much. But you do need to watch out for the Scranton Strangler. Bears, beats. Battlestar Galactica. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Story 11. Substances on Halloween candy. Yeah, no one who has substances is going to be giving them out for free as Halloween candy. That stuff's expensive. I knew some rich guy who would give out nugs to some of the older kids on Halloween. Hell, I gotta start trick-or-treating again. Only documented case was a man that poisoned his and his neighbor's children for the life insurance. Story 12. Slipping on a banana peel. Now, I've actually done this. On purpose, mind you. But those bastards are slippery. Not as slippery as the ones that created the stereotype. That race is extinct. Not extinct. You can still find Gros Michel. They're just not common. There's still an active effort to breed disease-resistant Gros Michel because they have superior benefits as a cultivar for transportation. If you want more banana facts, just ask. Who rattles off banana facts like this? I'm just imagining Donkey Kong typing away at a keyboard in response to this story, and then getting a thumbs up from Diddy Kong and Cranky Kong. Now I gotta look up what this Gros Michel thing is. Story 13. Dangerous trends that bored and paranoid stay-at-home moms spread around, like syringes and ball pits. Maybe it's happened once, but that's not something worth spreading around the internet like as if some international supervillain syndicate is banding together to drop syringes into all of the ball pits around the country. Story 14. Razor blades in candy during Halloween. I'm pretty sure that it's only happened once, and it was some guy who did it to his own kid for insurance purposes. I think he poisoned the candy. He didn't use razor blades. This one has been appearing in a lot of the stories in this video. The thing about the razor blades is the one that struck me growing up as a kid. We used to get these little comics right before Halloween, and they would always tell us to look out for razor blades in the candy. They even came with these semi-creepy illustrations of a cross-section of an apple with a razor blade in it. I always felt safe because I wanted candy, not apples. Story 15. I hear more people complain about other people saying, "New year, new me," than I've ever heard someone say, "New year, new me." Story 16. I have held doors open for probably hundreds of women in the course of my lifetime, and not once was I ever berated or even given the evil eye for this sexist behavior. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.